So we talked about the Democratic Party, or we talked about the race in Georgia already. I think the Democrats have a bigger problem than they realize. And, I'm honestly, I'll give a full disclosure. I feel like what Donald Trump can do and wants to do is such an anathema to my existence that I would take anybody at this point to buffer and to beat back Donald Trump, at least in the Congress. Like, can we at least divide the House from the Senate, divide the government? So I'm all for, I don't care. I'll take an Ossoff over Karen Handel any day, right?
Absolutely.
No matter what baggage they have, no matter what dark money, I don't care. Donald Trump has to be stopped. I gave all that caveat to say this. The Democrats are in trouble, and I don't think they know what the hell they're doing.
I think they have done nothing lately to show that they have a plan.
I guess I need to tell people why we're even talking about this is because in May, the Democrats had their worst fundraising since 2003. They only raised $4.3 million last month compared to $10 million that was raised by the Republican Party. I'm sorry, if you cannot. This is the thing I was wrong about in the election. I said, if Donald Trump wins, can you imagine the amount of money that the Democrats would raise?
We were all, this was the silver lining we all came up with, right? And there was like that week where the ACLU, drew in this crazy money. And it might still be true that some of these perhaps more progressive causes, that these more issue-based causes maybe are still bringing in money. But part of the assumption, right, was that that Donald Trump, every word he said, would be a fundraising advertisement for the Democrats. Now, do you think there's an extent to which the attention on Ossoff and the incredible money given there detracted from? I just don't know if those are the same people, though.
So
I don't know.
I don't think it would be the same people, even if there's some crossover. They've been trending negatively on their fundraising for a long time. This race has gotten attention probably for 2 months, 2 solid months. But prior to that, they still had a lot of bad months where they were not able to raise money. And if you can't raise money on Donald Trump, what the hell are you going to do? Because you can't scare people any more than what Donald Trump is already doing. You can't make a scenario like people literally believe that Russians have taken over, and you can't raise more than $4.3 million in May. They actually believe that there's a possibility for a nuclear holocaust with Donald Trump, but the Democratic Party can't raise more than $4.3 million on that
to save humanity. They
to
can't.
save.
Yeah. No, you'd think that would be a good pitch. Don't destroy the world, and to be even a little less comical about destroying the world, just the environmental steps he's taken. You would think. Generally, the environment's a good fundraiser,
right?
Generally, you would think that would be a good, but literally, so there's like 2 ways in which he is possibly destroying the world, like literally, and they still can't. The only thing that I can say is that it is true that if we go back, if we look at the Republican Party during the last primary run, it looked like they were feckless and didn't know what the heck they were doing. If we looked at Trump during the early stages of his general election campaign, he couldn't raise a dollar, and the stuff all flipped. So things flip. That's true. But I do think that we had the caller way back when saying that the Republicans have a clear message, even if it's sort of evil and awful, and Democrats don't. And maybe, a condition of flipping it, turning it around is saying something coherent that catches on.
Right. And the problem is it does go right back to what the caller said. Like you mentioned, what do the Democrats stand for more so than what they stand against? I think people are people are upset there's no excuse. I was trying to find a way to give the Democrats an excuse. But like the commenter just said from Facebook, from YouTube, it's like, it's not rocket science. You saw what drove fundraising for Bernie Sanders from people, like individual, all the small donations that he got. But yet we're not willing to espouse any of those policies.
I'm tempted to go back to the point that we came up with earlier, or that I came up with and we talked about, that they just simply don't. It's not rocket science, but you do something long enough, right? You have a toolbox that you use over and over and over again. And Bernie just looks like an outlier because all of the conventional wisdom, everything they learned in graduate school, everything they learned in working on campaigns says that is magic. right? I think that's the attitude about Bernie, right? That it is magic. That there's no, you can't recreate that, right? Whereas the Clinton system you could recreate, right? You find people. I think that's the idea, and I think that that's fundamentally wrong. I think, right? I mean,
No, I know it's 100% wrong because I've worked on a few campaigns. One of the campaigns I worked on had a dynamic candidate in the sense that this dude did more by the time he was 50 than I think 10 people can do in one lifetime. He was like a doctor. He has been in the Air Force. He had done, own a business. He did all these. He was a lawyer and a doctor. Like, dude, when did you?
How bad did he lose?
He lost. He had like a $3 million budget, and then he lost. One of the reasons I saw that he lost was sitting inside the campaign as a volunteer and looking and listening and working with them at a different level. Everything about it was talking points that they got from DC.
Yeah,
everything about this local race was talking points, and they did not tap into what this guy had. This guy had the fire in his belly to be the type of community leader that the community wants, right? No. People throw off on populism, but the reality of it is where most of human beings exist, they are looking for that inspirational figure who's going to talk about the issues that are important to them. And when you when you strip that away, I'm trying to not use some horrible language. When you cut that off, when you cut that off from the community, now you're stuck with talking points from a think tank that doesn't even know anything about your community. No. And so there's really no way that you can win or motivate your community when everything that you're talking about comes from a think tank in DC that doesn't understand the issues in that local community. And I think this has spilled over into the Democratic fundraising inability. It's because they're talking about one thing all day long. And overall, people are still looking for a populist leader that they can latch hold to, or at least, if not an individual leader, more importantly, a populist message that can inspire them to want to give and to want to do. But the Democratic Party is like, we got these talking points. It's Russia right now. Let's talk about Russia.
Yeah, and we have our jobs.
Yeah.
And, there are many situations, especially in these hierarchical organizations where, you don't get there by being the best. You don't get to the top by being the most innovative. You get there by following the rules, right? You get there by playing the playbook. If you make a conservative call and it doesn't work, everybody says, I played by the book, right? If you do it and you screw up, you're out.
Yeah.
I think it's just a general
risk adverse in a very significant way. Yeah. But it's a way that's consistently undermining the Democratic Party.
Oh yeah.
It's a way that has consistently given voice, and it goes back to the question about Ossoff in the Georgia 6th district. It's like if you keep you keep playing by your playbook, and your playbook says, let's be as moderate as we can. Let's do triangulation, and let's pick off some of those Republicans. You keep playing that play, but you keep losing, and you keep telling yourself we lost because we didn't go far enough, or we lost because we weren't moderate enough. And then you keep inadvertently moving further and further to the right, to the point where you've already alienated your base on behalf of people who were never going to be interested in you in the first place.
No, that's the way you put it kind of does outline the absurdity, right? To moderate extremely.
Yeah.
Right. That sounds stupid because it is stupid. Right. Because once you get to once you're at the middle, right, you start moving to the right, and now you're just fishing for you're going to get a subset of the other party's votes. Right. Right. You can never win that way.
And the problem is that the Democratic Party does not know it. They know their playbook. I'm not going to say that they don't know their playbook, because obviously they know their playbook.
Oh, they do.
Their playbook just sucks. What they don't know are all the people. Like, I believe, how many people in a congressional district? 800,000 or so people. Yeah. I think last night they had maybe 300,000 total, or I think it was like 100 and 115, whatever the final total was. I don't think it was over 300,000 people who turned out. And nobody is going to ask, how do we get those other people? Yeah. How are we going to mobilize them? How are we going to motivate them? And the reality of it is a lot of that group would listen to a populist message.
Right. But it's to take that as a broad strategy is to risk the pretty solid state of democratic power. right? I mean, you can't have less than what 45, 46 senators. Very difficult given the way. You know, this is a share of power between two parties. Right now, the Republicans have all these advantages, but you know, Democratic Party still has their people that, you know, they're going to have lots of senators. They're going to obviously, right? We have a two-party system, and I think what you're suggesting is to make them fundamentally question, you know, staying in that lane.
Yeah,
and you know that. If you tell a story in the future of how, you know, there used to be this party called the Democratic Party, right? It's plausible it happens because they stay where they are and they keep losing by a little, but that you can last a long time losing by a little. A more plausible story might be they tried something that could have really worked and it didn't work, and they're afraid of that, right? They don't want to go for it if there's risk.
What's riskier than losing again and again?
Yeah,
and,
no, well,
and again.
For the American people, nothing is riskier.
Right.
For individual people in power, a lot is riskier, if you see what I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely. I think I can't remember who it was, but someone tweeted this morning. They said it's almost like the Democratic Party is more interested in making a certain set of consultants rich than they are winning elections.
Yeah, that's very cynical, and I'm not. The only thing I don't like about it is I think a lot of it it's not quite subconscious, but it's sort of like common sense built in, which is false. But the outcome's the same. I tend to agree, right? Yeah. That there's a class.